Hello everyone. My talk is under the topic risk, non-communicable diseases and ultra-processed foods. I'll give reference to COVID-19. But first I need to take you through the outline of my talk. I'll give you the background, talking a little bit about the disease endemic in South Africa, its significance. I'll also define the term ultra-processed foods and talk about the mechanisms of food processing, and then I'll talk about the disease pathways and focusing on the association of ultra-processed foods with the development of non-communicable disease. And then I'll conclude by talking about opportunities for the future in realization that what we eat does influence the development of inflammation and also strengthening our immune system. South Africa has a multitude of policies, of which are designed to combat non-communicable diseases. However, amidst this, there has been an increase in prevalence of non-communicable diseases within the general population. Most of the information that is in the slide you can find from the and Associates 2018, as well as Kuvadia 2009. It is important to know that metabolic diseases are high in South Africa. The prevalence is even high at adolescents, and the prevalence increases with an increase in age. With this boom in premature morbidity from non-communicable diseases, it seems as though there are many similarities with the pandemics of infectious diseases, such as COVID-19, as shown in these two figures. It is therefore mandatory that policymakers and public health professionals alike aggressively recognize these similarities. And it is important to highlight that COVID-19 and non-communicable diseases coexist, and these exacerbate the prognosis of COVID-19 outcomes. And policymakers and public health professionals at the center of the fight of COVID-19 need to recognize this disease endemic. Hence, when we look at this epidemiology transition figure, we can put South Africa where India is, because like in India, in South Africa, there's a collision between communicable as well as non-communicable diseases. In the wake of global COVID-19 pandemic, we also see that communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases are intricately linked, and as I've shown before, they are influenced by age, but also poverty we have to highlight, as well as the less healthful eating behaviors by individuals. It is important to know that our food environment is not making things easy for us to procure healthy food because of the ripeness of ultra-processed foods. Wherever we go, if you look at this picture on the right-hand side, you can see that there's always processed foods in our markets. This, therefore, becomes even worse for people who have low socioeconomic status and those who are disempowered. Hence, shaping our environment is important, and increasing people's awareness about the ripeness of ultra-processed foods and their risk to non-communicable diseases. Still, and associates suggest that ultra-processed foods, the definitions, there are many definitions for ultra-processed foods, and I have chosen the latest definition, which was published in 2016, suggesting that ingredients of ultra-processed foods include food substances not commonly used in culinary preparations, such as hydrolyzed proteins, modified starches, and hydrogenated and esterified oils, and additives whose purpose is to imitate sensorial qualities of unprocessed and minimal processed foods in their culinary preparations, or to disguise undesirable qualities of the final product, such as colorants, flavorants, non-sugar sweeteners, emulsifiers, etc. There are three stages of food processing, of which one is making food edible, 2, making food palatable, and 3, making more complex products that can stay fresh for longer. And it's important to know that in stage one, the food is almost close to its natural form, because this corn is just harvested, and this cut of meat has just, the livestock has been slaughtered, and then the cut of meat has been cut in sizable portions. That means it's manageable. And stage 2 involves minimally processing, whereby some of the ingredients or parts of the food will be removed or some will be replaced. For example, in terms of corn, the corn will be grounded, and then in most cases, the natural fiber, which is roughage, is removed from the corn, making it refined maize meal. Sometimes some nutrients are added into the maize meal to make it more nutritious. And similarly to the meat below, the fatty part of the meat can be cut out, resulting to this more healthy part of the meat in stage 2. Or we can add more salt as well as more oil, and then we end up having a not so healthy product. In stage 3, that's when things become worse, whereby you see that we get a most refined product after ultra processing, and then in this case you see the corn that was natural and now has been turned to cornflakes, and in this case you see a sausage whereby some additives have been added, for example, colorants and other chemicals to make this looks attractive, and also looks the pinkish, to put in the pinkish color that makes the sausage look fresh. The end products, now looking at the relationship between ultra-processed foods and overweight, we see that the end product of processing is making this food attractive and advertising it. For example, putting it in colorful packages and also labeling it using sometimes deceiving labels, whereby you put whole grain, whereas you talk about cornflakes, but you say whole grain, whereas we know cornflakes are refined. There's also a factor whereby marketers use cartoon characters as well as celebrated individuals to promote the food, and the food that is promoted is mainly very attractive to people, and people tend to eat more of these foods, of which in most cases these are the ultra processed foods. There's also an illusion about the packaging of food, because most of the ultra processed foods are packaged in small packets, and then whereas they are empty calories and are also energy dense. People tend to eat these small packets thinking it's less energy, and may eat more than one of these packets, whereas people are picking up energy and end up gaining weight. It's important to see just the energy or nutrient content of the food. For example, the natural corn, the natural form of corn before processing, you get sort of like 12.1 grams of dietary fiber and 15.6 grams of protein, whereas after refining, getting from that cornflakes, the same cup, you get only 0.8 grams of dietary fiber. Most of the fiber is taken out from the corn, and getting 1.7 grams of protein. That means the cornflakes are less nutritious when compared to the natural form of corn, the whole grain corn. Then people tend to eat more of the cornflakes because there is no fiber, and then it takes them a long time to be full when they eat cornflakes. Whereas in terms of whole grain corn, you can eat 1 cup and get full quicker because of the dietary fiber as well as the amount of protein that is in it. There's another also disease pathways whereby we associate ultra-processed foods with diabetes, for example, whereas we haven't found any, most of the studies actually have failed to show direct link between sugar intake and development of diabetes. Whereas one study by Zandile and Associates suggests that there is an association between sugar-sweetened beverages and the development of diabetes. However, they highlight that this association is mediated by the BMI. Also, Young and Associates also highlight the fact that people who consume 10 to 24% or 25% or more calories from added sugar have a high chance, which is 1.3 to 2.75, chance of dying from cardiovascular disease when compared to their counterparts who consume less than 10% of calories from added sugar. And we must note that the 10% calories from added sugar is a recommendation by the World Health Organization cutoff point for consuming added sugar. There's also an association between ultra-processed foods and hypertension, and in this case, there's growing concern that dietary protein promotes renal damage by chronically increasing glomerular pressure and hyperfiltration. And I'm mentioning this because there's recent evidence suggesting that those individuals who have renal disease have a high chance to die from COVID-19. Another evidence suggests that when you consume more protein from animal, then you also consume high intake of animal fat. And also there's a lot of salt that is always added to meat to make it palatable and also to prepare it. For example, if you want to keep it longer or preserve it, then you put a lot of salt, for example, in the terms of making biltong. And individuals who consume meat with a lot of fat and added salt, who also have high blood pressure, tend to be prone to stroke and cardiovascular disease. Finally, we talk about the relationship between ultra-processed foods and cancer. And in this case, we talk about the cancer-causing agents, which is food, cancer-causing food, of which we call mutagens and some carcinogens. In the mutagens, we say that they have a high ability to cause genetic mutation, and carcinogens, they have high ability to alter cell structure. And most of these foods include the overcooked food, or overcooked protein, whereby when you heat protein for longer at high temperature, then you have a chance to get outcomes of carcinogens. The end products will be carcinogens. And then fungal products, for example, if you consume peanuts with mold, you have a chance to consume mycotoxins, which are implicated in the development of cancer. You also have to worry of flavonoids, hydroxides, nitrites, related materials, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and oxidative agents. We also are concerned about the heterocyclic amines, which are products that are produced when protein is heated at high temperature during grilling and overcooking. And people who consume these have a chance to develop breast, colon, and prostate cancer because heterocyclic amines are genotoxic. They alter genetic material. And then there is a relationship between increased fat accumulation, animal fat consumption, as well as consuming more sodium chloride, which is table salt. And there's an implication of these to breast, colon, prostate, as well as gastric cancer. Finally, it is important to have a take-home message from this talk, which is while a multi-sectoral approach is part of public policy discourse in South Africa, its application and implementation of non-communicable diseases and programs is a challenge. And with the wake of COVID-19 pandemic and for the future similar global crisis, multidisciplinary public health professionals and policymakers alike need to work together to find workable solutions to stop the unnecessary morbidity and mortality in the country. Among these solutions, they need to embrace the concept of disease endemic, whilst at the same time acknowledging complementary and conventional medical treatments that prove beneficial in alleviating some of the health conditions brought about by the disease endemic, especially in the absence of pharmacological treatments and vaccines in COVID-19 case. Among these complementary and conventional medicines is promoting eating healthily, as well as promoting adequate consumption of certain vitamins and minerals to keep the immune system strong. Finally, it's important that we shape our environment by regulating the sale of ultra-processed foods and also regulating the processing of food itself and increasing people's awareness about the ripeness of these ultra-processed foods and its implication to people's health. Doing this is mandatory if we are to cap the disease burden in the country and in the wake of COVID-19. Thank you.